Hey, Cowboy, how are you?
How are you?
Oh, great to see you.
Come this way.
Thank you for being on Chinatown Gang
problem.
Stories. Let's see where we're going to do the interview.
We'll pick one of these rooms here. Okay?
Oh,
Right.
great, wonderful. Welcome to Chinatown Gang Stories. Today I have a special guest. He's known in the streets back in the 70s as Cowboy. He was under the regime of the Flying Dragons, and we have a full-blown bona fide member of the Flying Dragons from Pell Street here who was under the scientists, and then after the scientists got gunned down, he was under a second regime, Onion Head, and he was also one of the street bosses of the Flying Dragon. He's a very valuable asset to this channel because this channel focuses on New York City Chinatown gangs, and we have the BTK, we have Grand Street Flying Dragons, we have Ghost Shadows, we have Tong, and now we have a member of the Pell Street Flying Dragons. Okay, so I'd like to turn it over to you. Cowboy, you're known now as CB.
Yes.
Cowboy is in your past.
Yes.
You're talking about almost 40 years ago. You came out from prison and you go by the name CB.
Yes.
Right? And you put that Cowboy.
Yes, I try to put it to sleep because Cowboy has too much baggage.
Too much baggage.
Yes, so I shortened it to CB. Right, so
welcome to the channel.
Thank you. So that itself answers a lot of questions why people in Flushing, and a lot of people in Flushing know me as CB. Why? So before I go on, I like to make a statement to all my peoples, right? Because they're scratching their head and wondering why, what the fuck am I doing this for? Coming out here, making everything so public. Well, the reason is, right, for starters, right, been so many years people have been talking about FDs and stuff, and some of it is really off base. So if everybody's going to talk about us, yo, let me talk about us and set the record straight. Secondly, I'm mainly going to be talking about myself and my escapades. There'll be nobody's going to be implicated or indicted because of what I talk about, right? And finally, a lot of this stuff is public record, like as Michael said. It's been 40 years. You know what I mean? So listen, you got mafiosos on TikTok.
Yeah, let's see.
You know what I mean? I'm pushing 60.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff is behind me already.
Share some of the stories, you know what I mean? And put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Okay. Some things, I'm going to say some things, if it's too sensitive, I'm going to pass over. Okay? All right? So I'm just going to take it from here.
Yeah, let's start off with the beginning. Talk about your childhood, how you came to this country, and where did you come from? Was it mainland China, Hong Kong, and what got you involved with the gangs?
Oh, this is going to be a long interview. Well, I was born in Hong Kong. I came to this country when I was 6 years old. And of all places, my parents, they lived in Grand Concourse, Fordham Road. For you guys that been in the city, you know what that is. That's the Bronx, the boogie down. That's my first training experience. The reason I say that is because if you look at the school yearbook, you're going to see a bunch of brown faces, white faces, black faces, and there's one yellow face, which was me, and that whole freaking fucking neighborhood, whatever. I was the only Asian Chinese whatever there. This was like what, 1970, 71. And I remember going to school was an exercise in survival, because listen, 9-10-year-old kids, they're the meanest. Every day I'm going to school, ching chong, ching chong. I'm walking here with my little backpack and I see a group of kids. I walk the other street, cross the street, avoid them, but it never works. So from there, I remember even as a kid, when I was in kindergarten, first grade, I remember getting fights with a bunch of kids. And usually it's me against 5-6 of them. So that's where my first training experience, conditioning came from, right? Living in the Bronx, getting my ass kicked as a kid. So from there, Eventually, my parents moved to Chinatown. By then, I believe I was in the 3rd grade. In Chinatown, believe it or not, I didn't get involved with the gangs yet, because that time, what, 3rd grade, how old am I? 8, 9? But every day there was this fun motherfucking kid that came around picking on people, bullying people, and taking my lunch money, which I really didn't have. I had to steal the money from my parents for him to take it from me. Fuck. You know what I mean? So that went on up until for a few years, believe it or not.
I was that you're in Chinatown. Was that another Asian kid who was stealing your lunch money?
Not stealing, extorting me.
Extorting your lunch?
Yeah, he would come around lunchtime, extorting not just me, but everybody. Okay. It's your stereotypical bully coming around. Eventually, anyway, he would say he was from the Ghost Shadows. But later on, when I came out, I found that he wasn't really a full-fledged member. Just a schmuck going around taking little kids' money, right? So anyway, from there, I had a negative image of the GS, the Ghost Shadows, because it's taking my lunch money. You know what I mean? I remember one time I cut school, and me and this other kid, and then we got confronted by 3 fucking GS members, okay? The twins, Howard and Jack and Jeffrey, right? Now, once again, that little punk kid was with them, and I was about to buy listen, I'll be honest, I was stealing money from my mother's drawer for like about 2 months to save enough money to buy a pair of Superstar Adidas. That was the shit back then in the days. And he just came and took it from me. Once again, they gave me a very negative image of the Ghost Shadows, right? So during my time in Chinatown, during that time, I had this negative image of the Ghost Shadows. They tried to recruit me. One time they actually beat me up, but I still would not join. Fast forward, my parents took me out of Chinatown. By then, that was like what, 7th grade, 6, not yet 7, and they moved me back to fucking, of all places, close to Jamaica, Hollis. I went from 7th grade and 9th grade in a black neighborhood again, because they thought I was in the gang, which I wasn't, believe it or not. But from there, when I actually did meet up with the Flying Dragons, I was in Queens Vocational High School. Now, back in the days, right, certain high schools had gang affiliations, meaning they were gang members, like Newtown, Queens Vocational, Aviation, Seward Park, all the schools, you have gang members in there. You know what I mean? So it happens that in Queens Vocational, that was the Queens branch. There was a faction of the Flying Dragons in there, and was there when I was going to school in Queens Vocational that I was, in Chinese we call it Bei Pun, meaning it's normal back in the days. You know, when you're a gangster, Chinese gangster, when you see other young kids, you will go up to them and you ask them, you ask them, where you from, right? The purpose of that is, one, instills fear, it spreads the brand name, and at the same time, it could end up as a recruitment process, because the Flying Dragons, under the scientist leadership, was very picky who they allow to join. They don't just allow anyone. You have to go through a filtering process. He looks for the right profile person to be a member. It's for this reason that my generation and so forth, we were so committed to what we believe in. That's
what year was that you're talking about?
I actually joined them in 1979, right? But the scientist, Ga, right? He didn't just, he thought this out. I mean, later on in my life, as I got older, I could look back, you know, especially my time when I was in prison, did nothing but think, right? He had his whole profiling program of picking out people that they fit the mold to be a member. To be a member of the Flying Dragon back then, you don't just say, I want to know. You could come in and just like, I think, like the motorcycle gangs, you're on a probation period where they watch you, how you behave, how you act. They don't want assholes, they don't want troublemakers, and they don't want people that want to look like pretty boys. They just want people that's easily committed to their cause. And it's like profiling. I guess just like in any organization nowadays, they profile people, right? So it happens so that a lot of my fellow members at that time were picked on when we were young. And also we were only sons. So all this came to play in effect of our psychological psyche, because later on through the training periods, what I would say is this: when looking back when I was a teenager, it was every day. While it was, how should I put it? It was fulfilling from a brotherhood point of view, but they were ultra violent, because we were taught to be ultra violent. It's like this: imagine 15, 16-year-olds raging testosterone, but we were discouraged to have girlfriends. See, we weren't allowed even to go out to play or whatever. Everything we did was for the glory of the Flying Dragons. Everything. Even when we went to parties as kids, we didn't go there to dance or play. We went there to make our presence known. And we went there to look for fucking other gangs that we were at war with. That's how we were. We actually seek them down. And that was the kind of lifestyle we all led at that time in Chinatown. That's why Chinatown during those days in the early 80s, they were shooting every day.
One thing with the scientists, the newspapers, and the court documents call him the professor. But in the streets, we know him as the scientist.
We call him Foka.
Yeah, Foka literally translates to the scientist.
Yes.
So probably somebody, I mean, maybe the cops or whoever wanted to get that name translated, what Foka means. And back then they didn't have many Chinese cops to translate, so they probably pull somebody off the streets. And
I mean, there's back in the days, in the 80s, right? If you notice, everything is politics. For a period of time, even the police didn't want to acknowledge there were gangs in Chinatown. Why? There used to be like freaking 5, 6, 7, 8 tour buses on Bowery Street. There was money. There were tourists coming down. You know what I mean? And for the longest, and one of the things about us, our so-called violence, we did it to each other. Basically what I mean was this: we didn't go out there just to start trouble with anybody. We didn't go out there to rob people, whatever. Whatever we did, it was either with fighting the Ghost Shadows, the Tong, the White Tigers, whatever. It was all internal amongst ourselves. Because of this, I think the authorities for the longest really didn't come down on us, right? It didn't affect their white America lifestyle. But later on, it did. It was after we changed regimes and we started getting into drug distribution. And then we were making some serious money. So that changed the whole game.
Could you shed some light on Michael Chen, also known as the scientist? What kind of personality did he have?
Well, understand this. My interactions with him at that time, I was young. I'm a soldier. I'm not a decision maker, right? But he is very reserved, control. Everything he do is thought out. Only time we see him was on Pell Street. There was a little coffee shop called Gangster. It was open 24 hours. Next to it was a gambling house called Gangster. These were like Chinatown institutions back then. So he will hold court every so often. He will show up in the coffee shop, and when he does, it's a very serious atmosphere. There's no joking around. Nobody talks. That's the kind of control and respect he had amongst us. If he say jump, we jump. If he say kill, we kill. Right? That's how controlling. I mean, I remember he would read military strategy books. So he would think out how to run this gang, organization, company, whatever you like to call it, right? And what differentiates agencies, like for instance, a prison guard, a police officer, a FBI, a Secret Service, the level of training you undergo. We went through training. He would make us go through gun training and close combat training, meaning this: we would have let's say, unloaded gun. We'll put it in our waist bag. We'll look at the mirror, and every day, fast draw, fast draw 50 times. Everything. For instance, if you're wearing a shirt, you teach you take your thumb, push your shirt back, up, draw, up. You do this 50 times. Why? So in the street, you have training. You understand what I'm talking about? Because otherwise you know what to do. So everything becomes second hand to us. Same thing. The concept goes, if you're going to be a plumber, you better know how to use a wrench. If you're going to be a gangster, you better know how to fight and use a gun. So all these little things we were trained and taught. Every full-fledged member were taught this. For this reason why I would say the Flying Dragons was one of the most disciplined gangs, if not the, in Chinatown. We did not allow girls to go to our apartments. Why? Because he knew girls and girlfriends are the ones that see everything around you and they talk the most. So there's a lot of rules on the streets that we abide by, and we respected those rules because why? We saw these rules enforced. The highest severity of the rules, the penalty is death. And as I say, we saw these rules enforced. What that happens is this, that then you respect the rules. Let me say this about the regime of scientists, right? He's a righteous person. Because when we came out, like for instance, they when I was doing the probation period, right? My title, because every group have a little head like platoon leader, how you put it in English, whatever, right? Daima, in that sense, yes. You know what I mean? Mine was by a person named of La. You don't mind me mentioning your name, right? He was the one leading me across, but we were taught that the reason why we exist is protect the Chinese people in Chinatown. We do not let any other races come here and bully us. I mean, as you see now in China, robberies, all this stuff, people getting by the home, whatever, that did not exist back in the 80s. I mean, in a very ironic way, right? The thing is this, nobody can come down Chinatown and extort anyone or fuck with anyone but us. Only we can do it to ourselves. But is it like then? Back then in the days, if it's after 9 p.m. at night and you're not Chinese and you're under 25, you're getting an ass whooping. They know it for real. Why? Because you're up to no good. The tool is, if at after 9 p.m. at night, there's no reason why you're going to be in China. This was in the 80s, you understand? So we know. So we don't ask. We just go up there and we fuck you up. There's been lot of serious fights back in the days.
And it doesn't matter if they're innocent or not. You guys not taking any chances.
No. Chinese saying, 有殺錯冇放過. You know what I mean? You rather. The point of that, the point of that exercise, once again, was this. Let's
translate that.
有殺錯冇放過, meaning.
有殺錯冇放過.
How would that be in English?
Even if you kill someone who's innocent, at least
it gets the job done.
It gets the job.
The job done is to send out the word. Yeah. Do not come to Chinatown and fuck around. There are people there watching it. And that was the way it was. People knew, do not come to Chinatown to fuck around.
I remember those days. That message was clearly sent. Clear
and loud. There was a lot of fights. I could go on and on. There was fights where people with machetes. There were fights where there used to be a thing called ninja. It was a piece of metal with two things going this way. They'll come down very tough, thinking they were one person. What they don't realize is all around they're surrounded. Oh, listen, there was some major ass whoopings we gave people who were screaming, begging for their lives. So the point is, when they get their ass beat, they go back to the hood and they're going to tell them. And the people are going to know, don't go down there. You're going to get an ass whooping. Well, that was for the sake of keeping Chinatown safe. And it was. For a period of time, it really was. There was no drug dealing back then. No drug dealing. You can. There was a whole bunch of rules. All of them built on a righteous platform. Example, if we're brothers, I must respect your family, your sisters, your wives, your girlfriends. I cannot go out with your girlfriends, your wives, or whatever. The penalty is death. You can't drug dealing, right? That is another penalty. And you also must listen and respect your elders, right? So all these rules he had really had a very righteous foundation, which now it gives us strength. We were not allowed to harm civilians, as you would call it, and we're not allowed to harm elderly or women or children. That was ingrained in us. You know, I'll share a story, because growing up, teenagers, we have no sense of, in a sense, morals. That's taught to us. I remember one time as a kid, I looked to my elder, right? There were some girls coming down, and I want to teach them lessons. So I said to my elder, I think I was like 15, I said, listen, I want to take them to the basement and let's freaking rape them, right? Not knowing better. You know what he said to me? You do that, we're going to cut your dick off, beat you up, and throw you off the street. I looked at him, I said, huh? See, when you're young, you need fear to make you realize that. But then he said to me this, don't you have a mother? Don't you have a sister? What if somebody raped your mother and your sister? That taught me morals, which I later taught my underlings. See, that's how one generation to another. For this reason, that's why the Flying Dragons, right? The members believe in their cause, because we were not just gangsters in the street. Certain sense of morals was instilled in us as when we were young, and that part was positive. It really was positive. It taught me to respect my parents, because I ran away from home when I was 14 too. But later on, being in the street after a year, I learned to, during Chinese New Year, bring food back to the family, because it instilled a sense of respect for your elders into me.
So let me get this straight. So the Flying Dragons was formed to protect the community, and so you guys, in the beginning, when the scientists formed the Flying Dragons,
that goes really good.
Under like a righteous,
I'll be honest with you.
So there's really no money to be made in the early days.
There is no money.
There was no extortion, nothing like that. So it was all.
Now, the forming of the Flying Dragon was prior to my time. It was in the late 60s. There was a couple of people, as I remember, as the story goes, 4 to 5 people. They band up together really to protect themselves from the foreign, the Spanish, the blacks, well, because they were first generation immigrants in the 60s. Can you imagine how it was? So they band together so not to be picked on. Okay, from there it started to expand. Now, when it finally, and scientists and a couple of people, the first generation Flying Dragons, all right, he wasn't actually the leader when the forming of it, but just say he one of the co-founding members.
One of the co-founding
members.
Yes,
other members probably has less than ambitious to be a leader, so they later on faded out, but the scientists stayed on. But what changed the makeup of our presence, it was when the FDs under scientist tutelage hooked up with the Tongs,
which
hooked
is
up with Hip Sing.
Uncle 7.
Yes, hooked up with Hip Sing. That gave us the right of territory. Because honestly, in Chinatown, while certain places were our territories, but they really belonged to the Tongs. They were here before us. Hip Sing, On Leung, the 2 major Tongs. They are the ones that owns the territory, and we became the military arm of these associations back in the days. That's public information. Everybody knows that already.
After the scientists got gunned down, Onion Head and Fox came into the picture. Did you think about maybe taking over as the leader?
No. You know why? Here's the thing. Like I say, there's a lot of rules growing up on Pell Street, right? It's not my place or anyone's place to just stand out and say, I'm the leader now. That's not how it works. We still have respect. Like I said, later on, as I rose to Daima, right, it has to be a position that's acknowledged by your fellow members. Okay, you can't just say to yourself, I promote myself. That's not how it works. When the scientist passed away, and yes, it was internal strife, okay, because some of us, the wolves, we start to get older. When we were kids, you don't need much. But when you start to get 17, 18, 19, you realize money is necessary. And we didn't know how to make money. All we knew how to do was freaking get violent.
Protect the streets under the scientists.
It was because of this. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, but after the scientist passed away and Onion regime came out, Onion was like a different regime. He was like, go out, make money, everyone. But then it was just like how I remember I was thinking about it. It was like the Soviet Union when they disbanded. You give them freedom, they're gonna say to themselves, what the fuck am I gonna do with it? We don't know how to make money except distributing drugs, because we had the Boers and we have the English. We spoke English, we know how to deal with blacks, right? So that was the new era in the mid 80s where we switched. Now it wasn't a gang thing that was stealing drugs, it was individual. Meaning you or me, we had to go out find our own source of dealing, which wasn't too hard. You got little Boers, it was everywhere. You know what I mean? I mean, back then technology wasn't like it is today. You just make a couple connections, ask a few questions, and you got some Spanish Puerto Rican over there, and then ask a few more from internally, and you get your hands on some number 4 heroin, right? And that was a different era where I'll just say it was very lucrative, very prosperous. A lot of us made a lot of money during that period of time.
Let's just talk like numbers, like an estimate. How much money were you guys pulling in on the Onion Head?
Let me put it like this. Let me not speak about how much money I will whatever make, because I don't want no IRS on my ass.
We don't need IRS on
Let me break down how much a brick of heroin is valued. A brick of heroin coming from Thailand or Burma or that section over there, Myanmar, whatever, right? Is 700 grams. It's roughly the size of this thinner, like a dictionary. 700 grams. That's 700 gram during those days, roughly sold for, hypothetically, give or take about 5,000 in Thailand. By the time it's transported to Hong Kong, it's worth about 10,000 US. By the time it reaches to the United States, the first hand that touches it is about 60, 65,000, depending back and forth. By the time it reaches to me and my partner, see, we're the last end distribution. We are the ones that deal with the Puerto Ricans. But it gets to our hand, it's about 80, 85. By the time we resell it to the Puerto Ricans, it's about 100 to 120,000, depending. This is 1980s numbers. So you understand? So you do the math, depending on which stage of that you're on, all right? Your average profit margin for a brick of heroin can be anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 per brick.
And how many bricks were you guys moving to the Dominicans?
It's like this.
Or the Dominicans?
No, but basically, at least me and my partner, we dealt with Puerto Ricans mostly. Okay, we dealt with Puerto Ricans. There's some Indians people we dealt with that probably might have dealt with the Dominicans, but back then the Puerto Ricans population was bigger than the Dominicans. All right, they did a lot of the moving and shaking. All right, so let me put it like the average transaction, depending, right, can be anywhere from 5 to 10 bricks. Meaning, excuse me, those are $500,000 to $1 million transactions. Now, later on, as you know, one of my clients, my partner's clients, was later on I realized was pretty famous. He was from the Bronx. He was known as George Rivera. Some people more know him as Boy George. Yes, you know what I mean? If you see his documentary, me and my partner were fried rice. They're talking about us. So that's a whole story within itself.
Oh wow!
You know what I mean?
That's a host to me. So when Boy George talk about fried rice, he's referring to you guys.
Yes, we were his suppliers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys supplied Boy George.
Yeah, and some other people too. I realized. I realized that when I went to MCC. And when I was at MCC, I bumped into some of them, and I realized that these are movers and shakers in their hoods. You know, I mean, in the streets, you don't realize that. I mean, unlike the movies, listen, we don't hang out, have parties, or whatever. No, you know what I mean. Thank God I didn't go to his boat party, Boy George. If George, you don't mind, no much respect to you, but thank God I didn't go. You know what I mean? But no, back in the days, let's just say, right. Distributing heroin is extremely lucrative. All right, I mean the Italians did it too later on. They'll tell you, you know what I mean? There's a lot of money to be made there.
So you guys were handling a lot of cash at one time. I mean,
let me tell you, I'll just say this, right? Yes, I relay one story, okay? Just one story. One time I was in the Colombian projects, down by Lower East Side, Colombian project, under the Windsor Bridge. I was doing a transaction, right? And it was very simple. It's not like in the movies, like you get 10 people. No, I went there by myself because it was a customer I dealt with. But still, back then, every transaction you do, you're strapped. Everywhere you go, you're strapped. All you need is one person. One person and a semi-automatic. You got at least 12, 10 shots. So, you know what I mean? So, it's all you need. You don't need army people. Nobody's fighting. If shit goes down, it's going to be gunplay. But anyway, I remember walking. This is about middle of the night, maybe midnight, for some reason. And the box of cash I was carrying broke on me. That stick in my mind because I'm in the middle of the fucking projects. $500,000 cash just fell out under me.
In the 80s, that's a lot of money.
Fucking shit, you kidding me? They'll kill you for it. I was by myself. I put the box down, pulled the gun out, put it next to me. I looked around. What the fuck? And then how I did it, piece by piece, I put it back in, you know what I mean, and I carried to my car. But that stuck in my head because there was like, I was walking, boom, it broke, and $500,000 cash fell to the floor in the 80s. Well, $500,000 in the 80s would be worth now at least
$5 million, probably double after 30 years.
Maybe triple, maybe triple, right? You know. But no, yes, there was a lot of cash involved, you know.
And how do you guys spend your cash?
Listen, anybody that make money will tell you spending money is not hard. I squander a lot of it. Plus, I technically have 4 wives. That's why I'm still have to work right now. Okay?
That'll do it.
Exactly. You understand? That will do it. You know what I mean? My first wife was a compulsive gambler. I say that because when I went to jail, I said to her, honey, all that money I gave you, I think I'm needed for bail. She said, I don't have it. It was that point, standing MCC holding a phone, I realized, fuck, the bitch gambled it all. Right? Because I realized that point, because out in the street, it didn't occur to me. Back then, there was no Foxwood or Mohegan. There was just Atlantic City. Because she would go Atlantic City, and then she have these fucking limousines, full comp rooms, and I would say to her, honey, how the fuck you get all this? She go, oh no, I know the host. Later on, I realized she didn't know the host. Fucking, she lost enough to fucking get all that shit. You know?
Yeah, it's another thing. Do you guys in the Flying Dragons? Any of your members use their own stuff?
No. It was one thing about us was this. It was told. It was loudly imprinted. Do not fuck with heroin. Why? Really, heroin is not mentally addicting. It's physically addicting. You know, how you put it, heroin is like having a mental orgasm. Think about that, mental orgasm. It's too dangerous. You start on heroin, your life is fucked because you're always going to need it. It'll take away your willpower, take away your strength, take away your ambitions, all that stuff. So using that stuff was a total fucking no, totally off limits, you know. So as I know, none of my members who dealt with it took it.
And that was coming from Onion Head?
No, it's not. You know why? It's not like we dealt drugs under one umbrella. No, you know, it was individual. It was like this. Being a Flying Dragon, you did that for free. You don't get paid being a Flying Dragon. You do it because that's what you want to be, like the Marines almost. Dealing drugs is a business aspiration that you do either with your brother or whichever partner. It was not because you did it as under the umbrella of Flying Dragons. No, you did that personally.
A lot of people don't understand that outside of Chinatown, right? It's the same way with the Ghost Shadows, the Fook Ting, and you know, same way with all the gangs. Each individual have their own ambition, their own rackets, and it's not like you're under the Daima or the Dailo's control.
Yeah, especially not with this is how I used to put it, right? There's street politics, street business that you have to do for free. Like later on, wherever I my business aspirations, the drug dealing, the businesses, that's what I did personally. But when there was street business to be taken care of, I had to take care of that. It was done, let's just say, with no compensation.
Exactly, no compensation. You did it for the gang's name because you're benefiting from being a flying dragon.
Well, I back then we didn't think like we're benefiting as flying dragon, because being a flying dragon was our persona. That's who we are.
That's who you guys were. That's your identity.
It's not something we did part-time. It's not something I did on the weekend. To be a flying dragon, you did this 24/7, because that's who you got to be to be a full-fledged member. It's not like a weekend warrior. I go work here now, I do that. So for this reason, we were fully committed. And it might sound corny, but at that stage, during that generation I was in, we were committed to die for it, for real. So it was when I look back sometimes, right, I could say, whoa, man must be nuts. I was willing to die for the cause, and not just me, my fellow brothers too.
Onion Head is also known as Johnny Yang and Machine Gun Johnny, right? In the streets during that time, we all know him as Onion Head. Nobody knew him as Machine Gun Johnny, as what the newspaper and claims, right? That nickname was given to him by the cops. I mean, we didn't know him as Machine Gun Johnny.
Nobody knows him Machine Gun Johnny.
Nobody.
See, you gotta understand, the media, the cops, the authorities, sometimes they throw names on you, right, that might or may not be correct, or it might be over one incident, but they made it colorful, so they put a name on him. He's known as Chung Tao. Chung Tao is is a businessman. He because he was, as the next dragon head, he's obviously qualified. When I say qualified, is this: we're judged based on our acts as a member. The amount we put out for what we call agong. Agong meaning the crew. The amount of work you put in for the crew decides your level of seniority in the group. Right? So, like I said, now, this is not something that's spoken openly. It's something that there's a saying: if you're meant to know, you will know, and if you don't know, don't ask. So secrecy is a very important aspect of how we lived. It's for this reason I had to make that statement, because if you notice, none of our true full-fledged members would come out publicly speak about it. But I was always a little bit rebellious too, you know what I mean? And also, it's 2024, guys.
Maybe that's why they gave you the nickname Cowboy. How'd you get that nickname, Cowboy?
Well, actually, Cowboy was when I was very young. My group leader, Lap, he gave me this name. He actually called me in Chinese. Actually, believe it or not, it's supposed to mean Angao, the bull, because I was very stubborn. But at the same time, I was very wild too. So if you look at the Wild West, the persona, the cowboys they represent, you know what I mean? Single lone person riding in, 2 guns, whatever. So he gave me that kind of name. So amongst the ABC, they call me Cowboy. Amongst the Chinese, they would call me Angao.
When the scientists got gunned down, there was a vacuum on Pell Street with the Flying Dragons. Based on what I know and the interviews I've done, Fox came in as the leader for a short period of time. Then he took a step back, and that's when Onion Head took over as the dialogue of the Flying Dragons. Can you elaborate on that, and can you shed some light on what kind of person Fox was, his personality, his demeanor, the style that he carried?
Wu Lei, I was cool with him. He's my elder, you know what I mean? During the scientist regime, he was, if not second, third in command. But he never really got involved with street operations. He really did was manage the business part, the gambling houses. He did mainly that aspect of the activities, but he stayed away from street stuff, you know. Now, after the passing of Michael, scientist, right? Yes, Wu Lei took the void for a short period of time because that's not his forte, really, right? That during that vacuum, which lasted a very short period of time, Onion came down. I mean, this is all politics, right? The internal strife that led to his passing away, the people that were involved doing that, they never came into power. The second regime came in, which was Onion's regime, because the Tongs wouldn't allow it. You know, so you need to come in with the blessing of the Tong. There's politics in everywhere and everything we do. You know, so when Onion came down, Wu was basically, he's like I said, he's not a violent dude. As I remember, he's not into that stuff. You know what I mean? He would smoke his cigars.
Good looking guy.
Yeah, hang out with, exactly. He's not into the violent part stuff, that stuff. So he did business basically. He was a businessman more also, right? And
Onionhead was more respected.
Yes, he knew what he had to do, but also under Onionhead's regime, he stayed away from violence. I mean, it was about making money at that time.
They were close friends, Onionhead and Fox. They left the scientists together, right? And then when scientists was
Wu was always in scientist regime.
Oh, so
Wu was always present.
There.
Yeah,
he never disappeared.
He never disappeared.
So it was Onionhead who disappeared for a short time.
Because you understand, during the days of the Flying Dragon, in the early days, excuse me, there's cliques within the gangs, like in every gang, any organization, there's cliques, factions in there. But we're still under Pell Street faction, right? But sometimes people fade out. All right, groups of people fade out, and sometimes if the time comes, they come in. But because scientists, he was so controlling, people don't want to disrespect him. You understand? Example, let's say you're very controlling, this is your time, your watch, and let's just say I'm just as qualified. I'm not going to be around because I don't want to be your enemy. So the best thing is for me to fade away. That's just human nature. So Onionhead belongs to a different faction of people that just stepped away for a period of time.
Uncle Seven's godson is the scientist. They must have had a falling out. I mean, for someone to gun down the scientists, Uncle Seven must have gave the green light. I mean, that's my own personal opinion based on some of the interviews I've done with other OGs. My own personal belief is maybe Uncle Seven has something to do with it. Now, did you guys give that respect to Uncle Seven? I mean, did Uncle Seven really have that kind of control over the Flying Dragons?
Here's my interactions with Tatsuk. Understand, like I said, during my younger days, I'm just a soldier. But I remember one time that we, being young teenagers on the street, we would do some stupid stuff. You know what I mean? Sometimes we walk into the wrong restaurant, we would curse out the owners. But as I say, while we think Pell Street belongs to us, it really belongs to the Tongs, the business associations. Every business on that street pays their tribute to the Tongs. Now, that's not extortion. They pay to be members of the Tong, just as Ong Leung has that section, right? But anyway, I remember, I think I forgot what I did. I think I either cursed out some business owner. I shouldn't have. I was brought to Uncle Seven. He was playing MJ with a few other people in the restaurant. Very, very calmly, I was brought there by my elder to be scolded. And I remember very simply, he just looked up to me and said this. In his broken English, he said, "Hey, don't make trouble. I chop your head off." That's it. And he continued playing his MJ. Now, us kids outside, we knew we had to respect him. But being teenagers, right, we really didn't care much. You know what I mean? We did what teenagers do, make trouble, make noise all the time. Sometimes he lived on Pell Street, right on top of the thing. He will open this window, and when we make too much noise at 3 a.m. in the morning, he will literally curse us out. "Shut the fuck up!" And then we will shut the fuck up. All right? But we do not interact with him directly.
I guess it's in our culture, it's ingrained in us to respect the elders.
Exactly. Especially in the FDs, that tradition was taught and carried on. Because if you don't listen to your elders, it's nothing but chaos.
Yeah, the whole system collapsed.
The whole system collapsed. Exactly. You know, everybody wants to do what they want to do. Then nothing gets done.
Exactly. You know, there has to be some sort of, you know, respect, structure, right? Without that,
discipline.
Yeah.
We were forced to be disciplined. I sometimes liken it really to like the military. Like I use the term Marines because they're supposed to be special forces. I mean, the beginning phases we went through some grueling, more psychological training than anything else too. I mean, the gun training, well, okay, fine, but we were under a lot of psychological training. You call it what you like, call it mental training, call it indoctrination, call it brainwashing, whatever. But it worked.
During that era, during that time.
But it's necessary. You know why? Like I said, if you are to have a crew of trained, how would you like to call it, trained killers, trained gangsters, whatever, you must have discipline in that crew. Any army, any agency must have discipline. If you don't have discipline, then you have a shitty army.
Let's talk about the war between you guys and the Tong and also the Ghost Shadows. What started that war? What sparked it?
Listen,
because you guys had the longest running war between you guys, the Flying Dragons, and the Tong
Yeah.
And of course, you know,
our wars with the Shadows is more political than anything else, because we will fight each other, and then it gets too serious. The Tongs will intercede and say, "Cut it out. It's bad for business," and they would be forced to cut it out. But the TOs was a difference. Actually, the historic nature is that if you went back to the very conception of the Flying Dragons and the TOs, the leading members, some of them, they were working together as partners. And from what I hear, okay, the reason for the split was really over business and money. That caused a split in cooperation. And the TOs ended up over there on division with something, and we were over here on Pell, very close to each other. But that was the real schism that started it.
Clifford Wong and the scientists?
No, it was not even Clifford. I think it was even other people that going back in the very early conceptions.
Dice?
Six Zai Hong, you know what I mean?
Six Zai Hong. So Dice and
honestly,
scientists.
that was also beyond my time.